This is Mandatory Listening, a podcast about the whats, whys, and hows of effective practical leadership shared by successful leaders and by your host, Dan Mann.
This is Mandatory Listening with your host, Dan Mann. Welcome to the podcast, and hello, Kent.
Hello.
And joining us today, also, Hank.
Howdy.
So, Kent, Hank, and Dan. So, I realize 6 episodes in, we have yet to make a proper introduction to this guy.
Yeah, I'm just the mysterious faceless person without a last name. It's weird. Without a face. Yeah.
Take no more than 11 seconds and tell people who you are.
Yeah, so just a passionate consumer, loyal man group trainer, and have a finance degree hanging up on my wall, and that's about it.
Well, you're qualified. Kent Mann. Okay. Yep. And over now to introduce yourself, new to the podcast, is Hank Mann.
Hey there. So recently was a teacher. So I went to school to be, and I am extremely excited to be away from the body odor and all the hormones.
Well, I can't promise that'll be any different in business, but we'll hopefully make it better for you.
Or here.
Yeah.
What are you saying about me, Hank?
Body odor and hormones.
It's weird. All surrounded.
Well, let's get into I'm sure everybody would like to get to the point, which is the customer experience, which has been our theme for some time now. And I know our last podcast, we talked about the movement of technology, the movement of store design, and the movement of big ideas sort of in this large competition for the consumer. Amazon's got, in any online capacity, has got the ability to be very convenient, very easy and simple, and it's oftentimes more selection and certainly a better price.
And that market has been there for a while. The online market was developed in the early 2000s and has stayed consistent. I mean, not consistent, it's exploded. So that market for consumers who strictly like to shop online has, it's there. Mm-hmm. And that's what scares people. That the people who like to shop from the convenience of their home, people are like, this is what's killing the market, it's never going to stop, and I think our argument's, to the contrary.
We've got to go chase that and be better than Amazon. And, and there's no retailer I know that's able to be as sophisticated or compete with Amazon.
Nor should they.
We've got to play a different game. And that really then calls for us. And by the way, if you've not seen these stats, well over 90%, I think it's 90.5 or 91.5% of all retail is still conducted at brick and mortar stores. There's still a vast marketplace. So
big number.
The challenge, is not to overreact. The challenge is to double down on what we are good at. At the specialty retail level, the opportunity has to be with connection with people.
Which is where it's always been before the internet market ever took over.
That's exactly right. So let's get into the details of that. I think we're going to make the case today that it's not really the embracing of new technologies or large-scale changes to your retail business that are the secret. The secret has to be in the small things. It is in those interactions with people that make the biggest difference.
But my new POS system. But no, this will solve all of our problems.
My new kiosk.
My new kiosk. No, we just hired a guy for customer service and visual merchandising. No, that's what we got.
Yeah, we've got a customer service guy now in a kiosk, so they're handling customer service. We can still be rude and unconnected.
We have to make a big fancy investment and make a big marketed effort towards this.
It has to look nice.
Yeah.
And let's just tell people customer service, customer experience.
Hey, if you have a complaint, we have a customer service kiosk over here that you can file a complaint with.
A complaint card.
So we did that job.
Card. Yeah, so that's all done.
Yeah.
So I hope you're hearing the sarcasm that's coming through here, because we don't believe that's the way. We really think it's in small things, the little things that are in people connections that create authenticity, build trust, and ultimately will distinguish you from your competitors. So let's get into the details of that. Just real quickly, is there any sort of recent shopping experience one of you guys could share? We could kind of dig into it.
There's plenty.
Yeah, I actually just bought a laptop.
Okay, so tell me about that.
I went to a store, went to the electronics section to pick one out, and pretty much as soon as I walked up to a laptop, 3 people swarmed me. I was bombarded with information, and they tried very hard to sell me on a very expensive and high technology laptop. It got to the point that I actually had to excuse myself and ended up finding a different person entirely who I purchased a laptop with instead.
So I heard a couple words I think I would like. Bombarded was not a pleasant sound.
No.
People talking at you.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like these folks were anxious to make a sale, and the choice they made was to give you a lot of information.
Yes, a lot of information about the technology of the product without really comparing it to other products. And even in the end, they said that, they don't work on commission, so, we're just here for you.
By the way, everyone listening is thinking, I've never done that. I've never bombarded anyone with anything.
I've never thrown them all
I have never, ever given someone too much information that they didn't want.
I've never memorized a list of features.
So,
yeah, unfortunately, it happens so often that when they're and maybe it's because these folks were passionate. They're just really excited about this product. Maybe so. But Hank, if I could speak for you, the failure there was to not connect and not to build trust.
Right.
Did you feel that you trusted these people?
No, and I don't even know their names.
Did you feel connected to the product that they were selling? Because they told you a lot of information about it.
No, I can't even. In fact, there might only be one thing that I can remember about that specific product.
So you weren't emotionally connected to this large-scale purchase that means a lot to you?
No.
I think that's what we're trying to trigger.
Yep, I think it is, and I think when you break it down to some very specific behaviors, we would talk, because if I've got 3 people around me, I'm just picturing just an uncomfortable, space challenge, or maybe some sort of body language. Is that anything to maybe what you felt?
Yeah, I'd say so. They were pretty close, very close to each other. Even it was a lot of a lot of anxiety around this
urgency.
Yeah.
So what do you think would have made you pull your credit card out for those first people? Would it have been, hey, here's how much RAM this computer has, or here's the newest processor, or the newest motherboard, or whatever the biggest technology is? Do you think at the end of the day, if the product was good enough and they told you all that information, that would have made you swipe your card?
No, not if they just, especially with the amount. If they kept pointing that information at me, that's too much.
My sense of it is that these folks might be highly skilled at understanding the differences in the types of laptops they were showing you. The difference and the opportunity is in building some degree of rapport or trust with you. So you trusted the advice you were getting, where the engagement was a mutual curiosity, a nice sense of discovery, and a sense that you were being helped instead of sold to. I can't help, Kent, but go to our guy at the chop shop who you have a shared sense of passion over the product he offers, and for him it's inquiry. How many people are you feeding? How will you be cooking this? And it's a relationship. It starts with a friendly, warm, handshake. It's trust that's been built, so that now this guy is Uriah, just an easy guy to connect with. He built that because the first time he dealt with you, he was more interested in you than he was in the product he was selling. Fair to say?
Yeah, he even asked if I was doing this for health reasons. I went up and started asking him all the, nutritional details or whatever, and why how I should prepare it, and if whatever is going to ruin it or whatever. And he said, "Oh, are you doing this for health reasons, or just you want to just get into cooking different food or whatever?" And he asked the right question, and I instantly had a connection. So it's a lost art.
So Hank, if you were coaching these folks on a way to have made that process better for you, to build more of a relationship with them or their store, what would be some points that you would advise?
Number one, there's no reason for there to have ever been 3 people talking to me. I think that made me feel uncomfortable as the person buying, and it felt like it was almost like 3 people competing to throw more information at me. So, 1, less people. 2, they shouldn't be throwing specific information that is over my head about this specific computer. And number 3, simple as they should have told me their name.
Now wait a minute. You're a millennial. You care about that kind of stuff?
I do, actually. And in theory, I could have ordered a computer online, but I wanted to go in and compare different laptops to each other, and I didn't really get that experience from those 3 people.
Odds are if you went into the store, you had looked up at least a brand or some level of detail about what the performance you want of your laptop to be. And at that point, they're just spitting off the same information that you probably read yourself and pretending like they know more about it than you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move this over to an adjacent industry and see if there's some nice comparatives. I'm thinking of restaurants.
Yep.
I'm thinking of what happens when you go in. Certainly, you can drive through a restaurant and buy a product and order it, have it at the window, drive off, eat it in your car. And that's certainly, a lot of people are choosing that.
Yeah.
But for many of us, and for most of us, it's a nice meal, it's a relaxing meal, and it's a nice connection. What are those quality servers doing the quality wait staff do in a restaurant that perhaps retail can learn from?
Well, there's a lot there. I mean, there's so many different types of restaurants that seem to do it really well.
So I think, when I think about this, I think that the server who comes to the table and has a plan, and they've got the confidence to know, I'm going to provide a good service. There's energy, there's a desire to help, there's an intention to help. They've studied the menu. They've developed opinions about the product, so that when asked for an advice, asked for input, they've got it. They've queued up. They're ready to go. They're excited about that product. So number one, I think it's an engaged group of people who are motivated and inspired to deliver this great experience. That's I think at the most foundational.
So do you think almost? I mean, let's have a hypothetical. The head chef at any 5-star restaurant probably has almost all of the wait staff try the food, right?
Absolutely.
So that they can do what? Communicate it to the customers when they're asking questions about the menu. It's about the same thing about $1,000 kayak or, any big purchase. If you're spending money on good food, you want to know the details of what you're ordering. Even, from a rational standpoint about food allergies, you need to know what's in it. It's a level of mutual respect that this person is feeding you. And so it's a mutual level of trust that seems to be lost in retail, or maybe was never there. It's that level of trust knows that you can go into this store, into your community store, support a local business, a local family, and they trust you to come back to their store, and you trust them to give you quality information as well as quality products, as well as an experience. It's a beautiful thing when it happens, and we all know it when it happens.
Yeah, it really does.
Absolutely.
So I think the takeaway there is that the 5-star, the chef of the 5-star restaurant prepared the team, brought them in early, prepared the food, described it, shared that passion, got them to actually experience it and have an opinion about it. Then they hired wait staff that shared that passion for this product, or mostly the passion for the experience that they were offering. Mm-hmm. So those are little things. I think when I'm writing my tip at the end of a meal, and I'm deciding how much I'm going to give, whether it's 18% or 25% or possibly even higher, I'm judging that based on some of the subtleties of the waiter. Were they polite? Were they respectful? Did they build a relationship?
So I'm wondering, was there any time recently that you gave a 25% tip? Have you had that experience recently?
Actually, I was at a restaurant, I can't recall the name, but it was in Kalispell, Montana, at a barbecue place. And I did give actually a 28% tip.
Wow.
And what was happening there was the server, it was a barbecue place, and the server was really not sarcastic, but funny. They were coming to the table, having a lot of fun with us, joking about the barbecue, joking about us. And it created a nice little rapport. We're back and forth. We went every time she came to the table, it was enjoyable. It was pleasant. And we had to ask her some advice on a couple of things. So we were asking her about, believe it or not, collard greens. So now collard greens out here in Montana, what is this? She goes, you know what? Hang on a second. She disappears, comes back in 30 seconds. Here's a bowl of collard greens. She goes, enjoy these as an appetizer.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Wow. Thank you. We certainly will. And someone actually ordered it additionally as a side. So I don't know. I think it takes a connection that is real and a connection that's not practiced or memorized or a 5-step process that doesn't feel authentic as I'm doing it the same with every person, but it's customized. It's adjusted to the nature of the person I'm dealing with. In retail, some people want a lot of service and a lot of help, and in retail, some people would just want to be able to check out conveniently without a lot of hassle.
Yeah, and would you say that your meal was better as a whole because of the experience that this waitress gave you?
It's memorable. It's the first thing that popped into my mind. I can remember a lot of things about the meal, but mostly, I think I remember what I ordered. I do remember her. I remember her service. I remember how it made us feel. And while I may not call every single thing on the plate, I do recall it was a very nice night, very nice, enjoyable evening.
Yeah.
Well, you directly paid her for good service via tip. Mm-hmm. It should be the same way with retail, and I think it is for a lot of people that still value a great experience. They'll choose to pay more at a local place. Yeah. and not even worry about whatever's like, flash clearance sale on a website. So that value and trust and loyalty is still there, and it's people want that.
They do, and I think that the difference I see here between the restaurant world and the retail world is the restaurant world is driven by people with an incentive, a financial incentive to their performance. If they do well, they get a good tip. If they do poorly or are evaluated poorly, they actually take home less money. On the retail side, I promise a future episode on this because I feel the compensation challenges in retail are probably driving some of the poor performance and poor results. So we're going to talk about that one. But for now, I will say that the challenge is getting an engaged staff that cares about that performance with or without a financial reward.
Yeah, I just had a quick example that I would just want to hammer down this point that think about a restaurant. If the chef messes up or whoever is cooking the food messes up, potentially whatever food you're cooking, a customer could get sick. A customer could die if it's a food allergy. There's a lot of risk, involved. If a waiter says, "Oh yeah, there's no peanuts in that," and there's peanuts in it, or it's touched peanuts, someone could die. So there's very high stakes involved, aside from just straight compensation in terms of tips, they've got a lot on their shoulders. I mean, if it's a nice restaurant that's serving seafood, there's a risk factor there, serving undercooked meat or anything, like a sushi restaurant, there's a high risk there. Imagine in the outdoor industry, in the bike industry, in the run industry, if you were responsible for the information that you gave to customers. I mean, if you let them walk out with just a tent for an overnight camping trip and they don't have enough water or know how to purify water, someone could die. If they go out and don't know how to store something in bear territory and they go tent camping and don't lock their food up properly, they could die. So it's just a lowered level of stake and a separation between things that ultimately was created by the owners that seem to value their work less.
That's right.
And it's created a culture in these specialized industries that's no longer specialized. These people are just commodities, and they're barely enthusiasts because it's just a real shame because those guys that have that true connection to the outdoor sports and want you to have the best experience in the world, that when you feel it.
And that's real. And all of this is at stake in the retail space right now because if you can live in that way and work in that way, hire in that, train in that, and offer that experience, it's still what people want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's why people don't prefer to go to Walmart.
Yeah. People
That's real.
avoid it. Yeah.
That is real.
That's exactly right.
So
this is a good conversation. I think that we're going to have to drill down even more because I think, and we talked about this last time, identifying what this looks like in terms of emotional intelligence, in terms of body language, in terms of understanding the different customer types, people who want a lot of service versus those that don't. These have to be learned.
Yeah,
these
connection.
They have to be. You have to hire to this, and then you have to continually develop that skill in people.
Yeah.
And until we at retailers do that, we're going to miss opportunities minute by minute, and that's what counts. So then, I think as we get down to the end here, I have to ask the question, and maybe this takes us a little longer: is it even possible to create that kind of an experience in a retail space? In restaurants, you've got busy environment, you've got urgency, you've got health code ratings, you've got audits. There's a lot around that industry to protect the public.
Yep. Just by regulation.
Yeah, just by regulation. And in retail, hey, open a store, put up a sign, come get it.
Yeah.
Good advice, bad advice, here it is. That's not gonna do. Is it possible for a retailer who cares deeply about what we're talking about here today to actually create that experience consistently with their staff so that the staff can develop that with their customers? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
Unfortunately, there's not a sanitation rating for retail, but there should be. It does go down to the basest level of getting someone or an entity that has a vision. What do I want when people come into my store? My pride and joy, my investment, my wallet from a utilitarian standpoint, this has my money wrapped up in it. Someone has to have that mindset that I need to protect this and what it stands for. Do you want to be a just different labeled, warehouse of stuff that people just come in, swipe a card and leave? Or do you want a hub of information
Passion.
hub of creativity, of new ideas, of new places to camp, of new places to mountain bike, of new places to run, a new group of people to run with. And I think the creation of that starts at the heart, the heart of whatever idea this came out of. I mean, do you think any of these big, giant, superstar specialty retail chains that have blown up, do you think it started the way it is now? Absolutely not. And they've made certain changes. And identifying that this customer service market is still out there, that's what gives me hope, is making that connection tangible. What does this mean when it's good customer service? How do you weave through the lies and the mysticism around what's a good connection with someone at a store, and why do you keep going to this store week after week and spend a lot of money with these places? Loyalty is real, and you can't measure it, but it's up to someone to safeguard the culture. Someone has to own it. It has to be authentic and genuine and real, and it has to be protected. Because if the vision gets lost, you may as well just hand your keys away, because someone's going to buy you out.
That's on the money.
Yeah.
Hank, you're the educator in the room here. So I mean, how do you get people to get the same passion that Kent shared? Is this just by accident, or is there something that we can actually do to bring that to the table?
Yeah, I think absolutely you can. It has to start from a place of passion. The people who are running the show and the leaders in these organizations need to have the passion for good and
for
serious.
The good experience.
Yeah, the good customer experience, a great customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that, and you're able to share that passion, that can at least grow it in the salespeople, and I don't want to say lowest level people, but the people on the floor.
Someone's got to stay. When someone walks in and someone's browsing at your store, let's say they're looking at pants or whatever. Someone creepily walks up behind them and says, "Hey, how are you? How are you doing?" Just the worst kind of approach to someone if clearly needing help. Just the creepy salesman that won't go away.
Or the avoiding salesman who's busy with something else.
The second someone walks in the store, the doorbell or the little bell rings, and then they go into the back room and sit on their phone. They're like, "I'm not talking to anybody today." Yeah. Someone has to own that day in that store. Hey, excuse me, come over here. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, back out on the floor. Or by the way, go home. You're not fit. You're not fit for this.
Yeah, you're not. This isn't your job. If you don't want to talk to someone's got to safeguard that personal connection.
Responsibility.
And personal connection isn't just it's not this unreachable.
It's attainable.
Yeah, it's attainable. It's
intentional.
It's intentional. It's being a good person. It's answering the right questions, asking the right questions. It's trainable. It's not hopeless. No. You don't have to be born with this bug.
You didn't say this exact word, but maybe you did, but I'm going to just bring it down to the word of culture.
Yeah.
So it is definable.
I did say it, by the way.
I might have to, yeah.
And I want to reiterate it because I think it is a trainable skill set, but more than that, it's a culture in which you realize, hey, this is how things are around here. It's the culture here. And once the team that you hire get into the rhythm of that culture, get into understanding the elements of that culture, and understand the cost or risk of losing that culture, people will fight hard for it.
Yeah. And deliver. And someone's got to say, "Hey, man, we have a very specific, tangible, accountable culture in this establishment, and you just don't fit.
Yeah,
you're just not a fit." And someone's got to say, got to make the tough choices and own that. Like I said, you got to protect it. And sorry if someone gets their feelings hurt, but if I have something I have to protect, this is meaningful to me. This culture means something to me.
All right. Well, you're bleeding over into our next topic, which is going to be culture. I look forward to getting into that.
How dare you stop me in the
you
middle?
were on a roll.
Yeah.
You're almost standing up.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I wish next time we get the video, we can see you actually on the chair shouting at me like I'm the enemy.
Well,
I'm on your side, Ken.
Sometimes.
Okay, so listen. Thanks for your listening with us today. We are very excited about this topic. Not only that, we are absolutely committed to believing it's the future of retail. It's the future of the service industry, and ignore this at your own peril because, frankly, it's the way to go. So we'll be talking about how to deliver it, who delivers it, and really in our next session, what the culture looks like when that happens.
And try not to pull the cord out of the mic.
Oh, yeah, try not to do that again. So, fellas, any final words?
That's it.
I don't think so.
Beautiful. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Mandatory listening.
See ya.
That's it for this episode. You can find Mandatory Listening on iTunes or wherever you get and subscribe to your podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think, so make sure and leave us comments on iTunes or on our website at mangroup.net, where you'll find all of our episodes. That's MANNgroup.net. Thanks for listening.